Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Bird 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Give us follows on X at Zander Krause and at JF McMullen. We appreciate everybody being here in the middle of the offseason. It's July 8th. We're getting close to training camp, a couple weeks out from training camp, and then 58 days away from the banner drop. So getting very close to the Eagles opener versus the Dallas Cowboys. We'll keep you guys up to date. We'll keep you guys posted, and we'll keep you guys entertained with content all the way up until that point. We appreciate your guys' viewership as it keeps us on the air, your likes, your super chats, your comments, and your shares, everything you guys do. We appreciate you. Johnny Mac, next topic I want to close out with. We got about 17 minutes left on the show today on a Tuesday edition. Kevin Patullo will add what to the Eagles offense, John?
Comfort. I think Jalen Hurts is very comfortable with him. And I think it showed in the spring. I think it was by far, and I mean by far, the sharpest spring I've ever seen Jalen Hurts have. And I think, part of it is that narrative has been there since he was in college, different offensive coordinator, different play caller every year. Kevin's been here since 2021. Yes, different role, passing game coordinator, associate head coach, but he's been there the whole time. And he knows Jalen and vice versa. And I think you saw it this spring, and I think he's going to have a much better personal season than he had last year. Last year was probably his worst spring. Now, you'll say, well, they won the Super Bowl. Yeah, so I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. Again, the odds are probably against that. But individually, I think Jalen Hurts is going to have his best season. He's comfortable. He's calm. He knows the offense. He's collected. And just he's getting better at every part of the processing aspect of the position. And again, I know how it's graded and how everybody does it, and I know I'm swimming upstream, but personally, I think he's going to have his best season. Doesn't mean he's going to win the Super Bowl. It means he's going to perform his job the best that he ever has. That's my expectation for Jalen Hurts, and a lot of that has to do with being around Kevin Patullo for so long.
Yeah, well, we share in that expectation for Jalen Hurts this year. I think he will be that. I've predicted he gets back to the MVP conversation this year. And I don't know if you think that. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. That's where I think about Jalen. But will comfort be enough, John? I mean, you're talking about a team that's going to have to evolve. You're talking about a team that relied heavily on the run game last year. Maybe they can do that again, or maybe they have to become a new version of that offense. Is comfort enough, or do they need an infusion of ideas?
Well, that's why I'm so interested to see how they play. Are they going to just run it back and say, all right, nobody stopped it. Let's keep it going as long as we can. Or are they going to try to be more balanced? I can't answer that question right now. I think in general, I think they're going to have to throw it more because they have a more difficult schedule. They will be in positions to need to throw the ball more in the fourth quarter. So I think ultimately part of that will just be a natural evolution of being in a position where they have to pass the ball, not that they want to pass the ball. So I think that, if you think about Jalen Hurts, and I'll pull it up real quick. 432, 460, 538, 361. That's how many times he threw the football last year. 538 in 2023. That is an enormous disparity. Had to throw it more in 2023. So to me, that's the most interesting part of the Eagles offense. And as long as they have Saquon Barkley, I think they're going to ride him until they can't ride him anymore. Like, I don't think it's going to be 361 passes. I think it's going to be more difficult. It's going to be harder. So I think it goes up a little bit. I don't think it goes up to 538. But I think Jalen's going to be more effective in what he does, which is a more nebulous standard, I know. But he's never been a great practice player. We've talked about this with BLG, and he'll say the same thing. And he's there every day, and I'm there every day. And everybody who's there every day will tell you he's never been a great practice player. Part of that is, as I often point out, is not even his fault, because so much of his game is predicated on off schedule stuff. You don't get to see that in practice because they're going to blow the whistle. So as soon as he starts to blush and extend the play, they blow the whistle. That might turn into a freaking touchdown in a real game.
Right.
So he's never been a great practice player, which is not that meaningful. In the spring, he was a great practice player. Now, I know some people say, you didn't throw an interception in practice. That's not necessarily a good thing. Elliot, if you're listening, stop it. It's not necessarily a good thing. Practice is designed to stretch and test things and say, hey, can I get away with this? Can I not? Do I have to scale that back? You know, being so cautious that you're not throwing an interception in practice is probably not a good thing. Not probably. It's not a good thing. And again, that's why you have to, it doesn't have to be me, but if you follow this stuff and you want to be informed, you know, make sure you're following somebody who understands how to watch an NFL practice. So, you know, and hopefully we'll have BLG tomorrow if he's not on vacation, which everybody's on vacation, but and I'll check in after the show. But you know what? I'll ask him again, and you can hear from him. He's never been a great practice player. In the spring, very small sample size, only 3 open practices. He was a great practice player. I think that's a positive development. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it doesn't matter, but he's great.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a positive development. Maybe shows that you're right about the comfort of Kevin Patullo. Jalen's been with him for a long time, and I know he's had a lot of different play callers and a lot of different offensive coordinators and even a lot of different quarterback coaches, but Kevin has been there the whole time. So, or at least since he's been in Philly. So maybe that is a big advantage, John. It's a good way of looking at it by you. I don't know if it'll be enough, but I'm confident that I think it's Jalen's offense, honestly, John. Like, how much terminology you think is different this year, if any? Remember the comment, obviously the famous comment.
Not much. We asked Kevin about that. He's keeping it very similar for that reason. So that's probably part of it. And last year was a complete upheaval and complete change, which is why he was uncomfortable in the spring. So he's done that purposefully. And yeah, I think he's set up to have a big season. And I think he knows he didn't up to his level, his standard. He didn't have his best season last year. So I think he's very hyper focused on getting back to his personal standard, which he can't get through because essentially it's perfection. But so I think that factors into it as well.
What have you learned about Kevin Patullo? You've been covering a team since he's been here. Anything you've learned about him? Anything off the that people might not know about him that you've learned, or has he been really pretty reserved his whole time here? I haven't had much time to talk to him.
No, I've talked to him probably 5-6 times over the years. His daughter's a tremendous golfer.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's he's Nick Sirianni's right-hand man. He's been Nick Sirianni's right-hand man from day one. I think a lot of people, I've talked about that on this show, so people who listen know it, but I don't think a lot of people knew that for a long time. He was the one who was going to be the head coach when Nick got COVID during 2021. He even had a press conference because he was scheduled to be the head coach, and Nick was able to recover. But shockingly, boy, talk about stuff in the rearview mirror. I'm not gonna go down. Boy, did we do some stupid shit as a society with COVID. But I digress.
Yeah.
But in Kevin's standpoint, he was always very important. I think one of the interesting things I learned out last year into the Super Bowl is, he's the guy that tells Nick he's being a dick if Nick's being a dick. Because I think a lot of people think that Nick doesn't have the ability to be hard on players. He's kind of a dick.
Yeah, I could see that. That doesn't surprise me at all.
And Kevin's the one who calls him out if he's going too far. And I asked him that when he got the job and he had the press conference with us this spring. And I asked him, how does that change now that you're not the associate head coach? Because he had pointed, he gave a great example when they were down in New Orleans. Doug Nussmeier, who's the quarterback, his son is the quarterback for LSU, and he wanted to go to the game, but he didn't want to ask Nick because he was like, I don't want to be that guy. I'm a first year coach here. He didn't want to, say, hey, I want to take time out from the big NFL game tomorrow, go see my son play. And Kevin's like, it's just ask him. What do you mean? Go watch your son. And, he didn't want to ask him. And Kevin went to Nick and said, dude, he wants to go watch his son. Which, again, I was all the way back to my first tangent about, living your life.
Right.
And ultimately, he went to watch his son, and they won the game. So anyway, that's sort of a little behind the scenes of Kevin's role. But, big part of the offense, always part of the game planning process. So that it's not like it's new. The game planning process has been a collaboration since, day one. And he's been a big part of that. So now basically the only difference is the buck stops with him. And it never has before. So everybody puts the game plan together, but if there's should we run this? Should we run that? The buck stops with him. So that's the change. And we'll see. That you don't know until you see him do it. Does he have a good feel for it? Does he have a Shane Steichen feel for it? Or does he have a Sean Desai feel for it defensively? Probably going to be somewhere in the middle. But Kellen was somewhere in the middle, and they won the Super Bowl. So talent is more important than that kind of stuff.
Yep. We'll see how it shakes out there. One super chat left here to go in the last couple minutes of the show. Fredo, what's up, Fredo? Good to see you, brother. He says, fellas, Makuba looking small for his safety with a puzzled face emoji or something, whatever that is.
Yeah, he's small. I mean, we've talked about that. They're very small on defense as a whole, not just Makuba. Hasn't hurt them, hasn't affected them. My best explanation of that is, and I've said it a couple times, I'll say it again. The Eagles' defense was better than the Eagles' offense last year by every metric, right up until the Super Bowl. Number one defense. But the Eagles' defense could not stop the Eagles' offense because they get bullied to shit.
Right.
Nobody plays that way. That's the luxury the Eagles have. Until somebody figures that out, I don't think it matters. Will somebody figure it out? Baltimore's close, and the Eagles persevered and handled themselves well. But they don't really have the offensive line the Eagles do. So, and to me, as I said, when you talk about offensive lines, it takes years to build them. So if anybody figures it out today because they're listening to this show, it's going to take them 4 years to do it. So the Eagles are in a good position. The closest we never got to see it is Detroit. Because they have the running backs, they have the offensive line. And that would have been interesting. But, you know, too many injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Washington got him. And they're going to play each other this year. So that'll be an interesting game. Regular season. So obviously not going to matter as much. But Detroit could take advantage of them. And we'll see how if they can. They don't have Ben Johnson anymore. But with their offensive line and their running backs, they could take advantage of it. We'll see if they do.
No doubt. Fredo, thank you for the super chat, brother. Good show today, everybody. Appreciate everybody for being here. Hit the like button for us. Got a good crowd in here as we always do. Middle of July, training camp, couple weeks out. 58 days out from the banner drop, the season opener versus the Dallas Cowboys. Eagles should start 1-0, hopefully, over the Cowboys. We'll see how it all goes. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on this Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here in the middle of the summer.
Middle of the summer, but we're getting through it together. So I appreciate everybody checking in. Hopefully we'll get our buddies Mike Gill and BLG. Everybody's on vacation. Everybody's trying to get their vacation in before training camp starts. But we're here for you, man. You got to give us credit for that.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Johnny Mac, good show, brother. We appreciate you doing it today. We will catch up with you tomorrow on a Wednesday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right, there's Johnny Mac, John McMullen here on Birds 365. Great show today.